It's unfortunate that I was shut out of the debate, but that does not silence me because you deserve to hear, Phoenix deserves to hear from all the candidates, not just the chosen candidates. I want to make sure everyone in Phoenix has the opportunity to hear how I would have responded to each and every question posed to the candidates in Symphony Hall today. So I have to go back to my notes to see what the questions were. The first question, what am I going to do the first day in office? Well, I've already talked about this a lot on the campaign trail, and I'm going to start doing it as soon as I'm elected, and that is identify 20 businesses that are stuck in the city process, that are being kept from growing, from building, from jobs being created because they're stuck inside the city process. We need to retool the Development Services Department, and they need to be our friends of our businesses, not the enemies of our businesses. The second question dealt with union contracts. And as I put on the Twitter account, we need to really, and I hate to put it in these terms, but we all have heard it before, we need to have a come to Jesus with our union employees. This is not about trying to deny benefits to someone. This is trying to sustain our economy and sustain the benefits that they are offered. We cannot have a union contract. We cannot sustain a union contract where we have a defined benefits plan. This is absolutely, completely unsustainable. We need to work with the union members and make sure that they understand that the policies that they have will not be there. They will not have that pension when they go to retire in 20 years. Governor Christie had a sit down with the firefighters there in New Jersey, and he told them the truth. And I'm going to tell our union members the truth. The third question dealt with the food tax. The food tax is unconscionable. It's a regressive tax that harms the poorest in our communities, those on fixed income, and particularly the working poor. It needs to be repealed immediately. We raised $28.5 million in the initial run of the food tax. We could eliminate $28.5 million overnight by getting rid of duplicative spending, by getting rid of unnecessary spending in departments, management bloat, and the administrative costs that are plaguing our city. The fourth question dealt with education. I started undergrad as an education major. Education is very close to my heart. But I want to have a truth talk with the voters of Phoenix. The mayor does not control the schools. We can listen to what we want to hear or what we can actually do about it. And as mayor, I can help make sure that we have a fast, quick, and easy process for charter schools to get up and running and going through the permitting and zoning process. As mayor, I can be a role model to our students because like many students that are struggling in schools today, I have been on my own since I was 14 years old. I know what it's like to decide between eating lunch and buying school supplies. But I made it here, and I made it through the American dream because I persevered, and so can every single student in our school system here in Phoenix. Question 5 dealt with the credit downgrade. Well, we all know why our credit was downgraded, because we're overspending our budget. Clearly, the city of Phoenix is overspending its budget. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had to implement an emergency food tax. If we want to make sure we maintain our bond rating, if we want to make sure that we maintain a world-class city status, then we absolutely need to make sure that we are spending within our means. We need to cut the fat and get rid of administrative bloat immediately. We have one manager for every 6 employees. I spoke with the police officer who said that there are 2 managers for 6 employees in his department. If we're wondering where our tax dollars is going, it's going to the management. The mismanagement. I heard one of my opponents say that the city of Phoenix isn't mismanaged. If we weren't mismanaged, we wouldn't need the food tax. Number 6 came, I believe it came straight from my entire speeches throughout the entire campaign. It was asking, how are we going to draw businesses and expand small businesses in Phoenix? This has been the platform of my campaign since day one. If we're going to get out of this economic downturn, we need to grow small businesses. We need to get the government out of the way of business growth and development. We need to do this by cutting through the regulations, getting rid of any regulation that doesn't have an absolute health and safety need. Most laws are economic protectionism that keeps competitors out. We need to embrace more jobs, more businesses, more opportunities, not scare them away. We've seen Phoenix lose jobs, lose businesses to our neighboring cities. Why? Because our taxes are too high. We have a 30% vacancy rate in commercial and business establishments in Phoenix. And this is because our property taxes are pushing out the businesses. We've got to revisit our property taxes. We've got to revisit all fines, fees, permitting, licensing schemes that are keeping small businesses from starting up and thriving in the city of Phoenix. And I want to make one point that I'm sure that I didn't get to hear all my opponents' comments, but every single one of my opponents believes that the key to economic recovery is taking the tax dollars of our small businessman and transferring it over to large corporations to entice them to come to Phoenix. We've seen how well that worked for the Coyotes in Glendale. It creates businesses that are too big to fail. So you start throwing money at one business, you got to keep throwing money at it for them to stay here. We cannot afford to be using tax subsidies and tax incentives. What we need to do is change the playing field for all businesses. We don't want to curry favors for the city north of the world or the other major corporations. We want to make Phoenix a place where all businesses want to come and all businesses want to locate. Seventh question dealt with transportation. We have created a light rail system here in Phoenix that was, in my estimation, a foolhardy investment. It covers a very small part of Phoenix. And I'm a native here, born and raised, and in the 4 decades I've been in Phoenix, we've always talked about growing downtown, increasing density in downtown. It hasn't happened in 4 decades. Why is it going to happen now? The light rail is a neat component to our city, but it is not an affordable component that the city should venture in. The light rail has cost us a regional bus system that goes throughout the entire city of Phoenix. Neighborhoods like South Phoenix have lost out on bus routes because the light rail is focused on the city, or the downtown area. So what I'm going to focus on is making sure we've got a bus system that reaches all 4 corners of the city of Phoenix, and not just a light rail system that focuses on one small segment of our population. And by the way, just some interesting statistics that the light rail costs us $100 million a year in subsidies. $100 million. you, we earn $52 million from revenue. We spend $152 million, costing us $100 million. And guess how much we've seen an increase in public transit ridership since that was implemented? 1.3% increase in public transit ridership. So we're spending $100 million to help a couple thousand people ride in the city of Phoenix. The eighth question dealt with public safety, and what are my recommendations in regards to the efficiency study? The most important thing we need to do as a city of Phoenix is we need to implement the broken windows philosophy of policing. This was implemented in New York City, and what this means is we take every crime seriously. And one of the most insidious of crimes that can be committed in our communities is graffiti. And why is that? Because it sends a message to all the neighbors, to the entire community, that crime is rampant here and that it is safe to commit crimes here. For far too long, we've ignored some of the smallest laws and focused on the so-called bigger laws. And in the meantime, our neighborhoods are getting more and more riddled with crime, with graffiti. We need to go back to the broken window philosophy of policing. We need to go back to community policing. And we need to make sure we have a police chief that will implement these ideas sooner than later. Now, the ninth question was, how do we come to terms with other Valley leaders in the legislature? We have got to work together as a community. It can no longer be about making one person a figure, not just figurehead, at the center of our city. We've seen too often, we've had politicians fighting each other on the public airwaves to get increased exposure nationwide. The focus needs to be on Phoenix, not the politicians. There's a time and a place for dissension, but on the public airwaves, on CNN, on Fox, on NBC, wherever it is, that is not where our leaders should be bringing up their battles. They need to be bringing them up in the boardrooms and bringing them out together, not in the public spotlight. So the simplest and easiest way we work with our neighboring communities, we work with the legislators, is to sit down with them, to open up the lines of communication and to actually invigorate active debate together to come up to solutions that are best for the city of Phoenix and the state of Arizona. I think number 10 is kind of a reiteration. It was talking about crime perception, and I go back to the community or doing the broken windows philosophy of policing and making sure that we're working on community policing. And the big thing we need is we need more boots on the ground and less boots behind the desk. And the last question is what is the roadmap to improve the image of the city and state? Well, again, it goes back to having our hard conversations together in boardrooms and not in front of the microphone. I'm not going to agree with everyone 100% of the time. You're not going to agree with me 100% of the time, but I'm always going to be open and active and available for debate on the subjects and topics that are important to the city of Phoenix. You know, talking about improving the image of the city, I'm a native born and raised. I left Phoenix to go to college in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I came running home because this is where my heart is. And I'm in this race because I want to make sure that my heart stays pure. So what you can count on me as mayor of Phoenix to do what's right for Phoenix, not what's right for me personally, not what's right for my friends and family, not what's right for certain lobbyist interests or certain vested interests, but what's right for Phoenicians, right for the taxpayer, and right for our city.